Welcome back to another video on RIP News. Over the past 24 hours, the world has bid farewell to some truly extraordinary individuals. Today, we pause to remember their lives, honor their memories, and reflect on the legacies they leave behind. If their stories have touched your heart, we humbly ask you to show your support by liking this video, a small gesture of respect for lives that meant so much to so many. Thank you for being here. She walked into Hollywood with nothing but ambition in her eyes, and left with a legacy etched in fire and fury. She wasn't born into fame. She didn't inherit beauty. What she had was willpower. An unstoppable hunger to rise, to shine, to be remembered. Behind the dazzling gowns and steel gaze was a woman who climbed from the shadows of abuse and poverty to become one of the most powerful and controversial figures in movie history. This is the remarkable, complicated, and unforgettable story of Joan Crawford. She was born Lucille Fay Lesueur on March 23, 1904, in San Antonio, Texas, though she would later change that birth year to seem younger. Her father abandoned the family before she turned 1. Her mother remarried a traveling stage manager, and Lucille's childhood quickly became a whirlwind of instability, abuse, and emotional neglect. As a child, she scrubbed floors in boarding schools just to earn her keep. The pain of those early years would never leave her, and in many ways, would shape the persona she crafted, not a victim, but a fighter. A survivor. Someone who would never be powerless again. Lucille dreamed of becoming a dancer. She found work in traveling reviews and Broadway shows, eventually catching the eye of MGM Studios, who signed her in 1925. It was then that studio head Louis B. Mayer changed her name to Joan Crawford, a name that, over time, would become synonymous with ambition, control, and cinematic greatness. Her early years at MGM were a struggle. She was dubbed a flapper, appearing in silent films like Our Dancing Daughters and The Taxi Dancer. But Joan wanted more than just pretty roles. She fought for meatier parts, dramas that showcased her raw emotional power. And she got them. In the 1930s, Joan Crawford became one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. Films like Grand Hotel, Sadie McKee, and Dancing Lady cemented her image as the working-class woman who clawed her way up. That image mirrored her real-life journey, and audiences loved her for it. But the 1940s brought decline. MGM deemed her box office poison. It should have ended her career. Instead, she reinvented herself. She moved to Warner Brothers and in 1945, delivered a performance that stunned critics and won her an Academy Award for Best Actress. The film was Mildred Pierce, and Joan's portrayal of a mother who sacrifices everything for her daughter was both haunting and heroic. It was more than just a comeback, it was a resurrection. She followed with powerhouse performances in Possessed, Humoresque, and Sudden Fear, earning 2 more Oscar nominations. By the 1950s, she had become a symbol of elegance and ferocity, both on and off screen. But success came at a cost. Joan Crawford was known for her discipline, some called it obsession. Her home was spotless, her appearance always immaculate, her performances precise. She expected perfection from herself, and everyone around her. This unrelenting standard won her praise, but also fear. In 1962, she starred alongside Bette Davis in the cult classic Whatever Happened to Baby Jane? The tension between the two stars became legendary, creating one of Hollywood's greatest off-screen feuds. The performance was electric, and once again, Joan proved she was not to be counted out. Behind the fame, though, Joan's personal life was turbulent. She married 4 times, once to actor Douglas Fairbanks Jr., and later to Pepsi-Cola CEO Alfred Steele. After Steele's death, she took an executive role at Pepsi, traveling the world as the company's spokesperson. She also adopted 4 children. One of them, Christina Crawford, would later write the infamous memoir Mommy Dearest, painting Joan as abusive and emotionally cruel. The book divided the public. Some defended Joan's strictness as a product of her era and struggles, while others saw it as a dark revelation of the cost of her ambition. Despite the controversy, Joan Crawford's impact cannot be denied. She was one of the first actresses to fight for better roles, to maintain her brand, to command power in a male-dominated system. She won an Oscar, a Cecil B. DeMille Award, and left behind more than 80 films spanning silent cinema to Technicolor drama. She shaped how women were seen on screen, not as background ornaments, but as central, commanding forces. Joan Crawford passed away on May 10, 1977, at age 73. She had lived long enough to see herself immortalized, but not always understood. She once said, "I never go out unless I look like Joan Crawford the movie star. If you want to see the girl next door, go next door." That was her truth. She built a persona that could survive anything, even death. In the end, Joan Crawford didn't just act, she transformed, dominated, and endured. Her life was a constant battle for control in a world that tried to deny it to her. And whether you see her as a heroine, a villain, or something in between, you can't look away. Because Joan Crawford was more than a name. She was an empire. And now, as we close the curtain on her unforgettable story, another legend awaits. Someone whose brilliance, struggle, and triumph deserves just as much attention. Stay with us. The next chapter begins soon. Some secrets are born in silence, hidden behind golden curls, radiant smiles, and Hollywood spotlights. But beneath the beauty lies a storm the world never saw coming. She was grace. She was elegance. But more than anything, she was a survivor. In an industry built to break people, Loretta Young refused to shatter. Her story is not just about fame, but about sacrifice, strength, and redemption in the shadows of the silver screen. This is the powerful journey of Loretta Young, a woman who defined stardom in Hollywood's golden age, but paid a heavy price for it. Born Gretchen Michaela Young on January 6, 1913, in Salt Lake City, Utah, her life began with abandonment. Her father walked out on the family when she was just 2 years old. Her mother, now raising 3 daughters alone, moved the family to Hollywood. It wasn't glamour that brought them there, it was survival. At the age of just 4 years old, Loretta began appearing as a child extra in silent films. She had no formal training, no safety net, just a face that glowed on camera and a presence that couldn't be ignored. By her teens, she had dropped out of school to support her family. Acting wasn't a choice, it was a necessity. Loretta changed her name to Loretta Young and transformed herself into a poised and commanding presence. Throughout the 1920s and 1930s, she took on role after role, often typecast as the sweet girl next door or the innocent romantic lead. But Loretta wanted more. She didn't just want to be seen, she wanted to be remembered. Her big break came with The Call of the Wild in 1935, where she starred opposite Clark Gable. The chemistry between them was electric, but off-screen, that passion led to one of Hollywood's most closely guarded secrets. Loretta became pregnant with Gable's child, an unthinkable scandal at the time. Abortion was illegal, and an unwed pregnancy could destroy her career. So she vanished from public view for months, giving birth in secret. She later adopted the child, Judy Lewis, and passed her off as adopted, hiding the truth for decades to protect her career and reputation. It was a heavy burden. A life built on beauty, but bound by silence. Still, Loretta pushed forward. Through the 1930s and 1940s, she became a box office force, starring in classics like The Bishop's Wife, Rachel and the Stranger, and The Farmer's Daughter, a role that won her the Academy Award for Best Actress in 1947. It was the crowning moment of her career, a validation not just of her talent, but of her perseverance. But she didn't stop there. Loretta was one of the first major film actresses to successfully transition to television. In 1953, she launched The Loretta Young Show, which ran for 8 years and won her 3 Emmy Awards. She wasn't just the star, she was the producer, a rare feat for a woman at that time. She carefully curated her image, entering and exiting each episode with a trademark swirl in a glamorous gown. She had become not just an actress, but a brand. Her show helped redefine what women could be in television: stylish, strong, and smart. She used her platform to portray moral stories, often with religious and ethical themes, reflecting her deeply held Catholic faith. Loretta's life was not without heartbreak. Her marriages were troubled, and her relationship with her daughter Judy remained complicated for years. It wasn't until Judy wrote a memoir in the 1990s that the truth about her parentage was publicly revealed. Loretta initially denied it, but later privately admitted it to her daughter, seeking peace after decades of secrecy. Loretta Young retired from acting in the early 1960s, retreating from the public eye. But she never stopped inspiring. Her courage to face scandal, her grace in front of the camera, and her sharp business sense left an indelible mark on Hollywood. She passed away on August 12, 2000, at the age of 87. Her legacy is more than an Oscar, more than awards, and more than headlines. Loretta Young was a pioneer. A woman who used elegance as armor, who fought quietly but fiercely for her place in an industry that never made it easy for women to lead. In the end, Loretta Young wasn't just a star of the screen, she was a master of survival, a keeper of secrets, and a symbol of silent strength. And while the world saw her as perfection in motion, behind the scenes, she was simply human, flawed, complex, and incredibly brave. But Loretta's story isn't the last. Because coming up next, we reveal another trailblazer, one whose journey shook the very foundations of fame, and whose voice still echoes through history. Stay tuned. The next legend awaits.